In this lesson, we are going to set up our canvas and work on the left-hand side mountain. In a new document, which is 2048 into 871, much larger than delivering for an HD 720p TV show, let's bring in our adjusted plate, which is image 4237 processed, open that in Photoshop, and drag it over onto our canvas. Now, let's start to transform that into place. We have to keep the left mountain as is, so let's transform and move based on that. Adjusting to what the client had sent us. Now the next step is to isolate the elements we wish to keep from the plate. In this case, they are the left, right mountain and the ground. Head over to the channels palette and let's search for a channel with the maximum contrast. In this case, it's blue. Duplicate the channel and open up levels. The keyboard shortcut is Ctrl-L or Command-L on a Mac. Use the black eyedropper to sample an area on the mountain where we would like to set our black point. Adjust the white point to increase contrast. Let's get the edge of our mountains as resolved as we can from this. Once done, hit OK. Now, the snow on the mountains also needs to be extracted along with them and the edges need refining. Switching over to my lasso tool, I'm going to drag a selection around the area I want to keep and fill that with black. I'm just following the contours. Let's fill that with black. Now, using a chalk brush with no pressure sensitivity, I'll paint over the few white areas within the mountain with black and include them in. I'm trying to keep the profile of the mountain as much as we can. Including sections which we would be using on later. Let's get that tree line in as well. Switching my color to white, let me paint out the areas which we do not need. There we go, just some more refinement onto the left hand side. Once done, invert the channel. In Photoshop, when we go over to select the channel, the pixels in white will be selected and black will not. We have the opposite currently. The keyboard shortcut for inverting is Ctrl+I. Now control click this channel to select the white pixels and head over to our image and go over the Refine Edge button. This is available along with all the selection tools. Once you have any of them selected, we can bring it up. Here, we have the settings to further tweak our selection. I tick the box next to Refine Edge and click on the Decontaminate Colors. Before I adjust any values, let's zoom into the image and check the edges. I do see that we need a little bit refinement, so I'm going to put a very small value of say 0.5. My output is set to New Layer with Layer Mask. And once I'm happy, I'm just going to go and hit OK. I'm going to apply the layer mask, that is make it permanent, and quickly pause the video where I go ahead and save my file. So we are back. Photoshop just crashed, so it's a good thing that we have a saved copy. We have extracted our mountains, so the next step is to work on our position. Using a polygon lasso tool, drag a selection over the right mountain and hit Ctrl+Shift+J to make a new layer from this selection. Now let's transform and move this layer into the right position. Now, organization is an important part of our workflow. Let's sort and name our base layers. I'll be putting each section into its own folder and then heading over to the folder blending mode and setting that to normal. By default, this is set to pass through, which means that any adjustment layers which are say not clipped within the folder will also affect everything below the folder. Say a curves layer in the right folder will also affect all the layers in the left, plate backup and the background. This has its own uses, say if we want to do global adjustments, but for now I do not want any layers to spill out and start affecting others. So we turn them to normal. Now we turn to removing the light from the left mountain. There are multiple ways we can approach this. Let's use a combination of cloning and painting. Make a new layer and head over to the clone stamp tool. I have selected the simple soft round brush. Let's sample a selection which is already in shadow and has the texture we need. This part of the mountain is a good example. Paint on the light area. I keep switching from my source point, that is keep sampling from different parts of an image to add some variation. Switching to my brush tool again, a simple soft round brush tool with pressure sensitivity, I'll paint in the snow with the same flow as the rest. Usually I keep alternating between the clone stamp and the paintbrush tool. Now let me pause the video here where I can spend a few more minutes doing the same and cover a bit more using the same technique. So here we are. It took me about 5 minutes of cloning and stamping to arrive at that. Let me toggle the layer. Next concern is the big huge patch of sunlight on the top left. Let's look at our elements and pick something from there. Image 5804 looks good. Make a rough selection on the right side which seems to have a similar mountain structure as we have in our plate. Let's bring that into our document and transform it into place. Now a point to note is that this does have the light from the opposite direction, but we are only going to use the section in the shadow. Now the one thing I usually have in my workflow is a hue saturation adjustment layer at the top. I turn off the saturation, that is make it 0, and turn the image into grayscale. This is very useful in matching values. Now I match the values first and then head over and adjust colors. Now let's concentrate on refining the edge of this mountain, again using a chalk brush, and let's get a good blend between the original plate and this one. Following the edge of the plate, switching between black and white values so that the mask removes things we do not need. Turning on my pressure sensitivity to get a good blend between the original plate and our new top part of the mountain. Now when it comes to blending, there are a few ways to go about when matching to something. In this case, let's use a combination of levels and color balance. The levels is used to match the black and white levels in our grayscale to our plate. Take the white output level and push it down to match the level of snow. Let's push the blacks up, that is make them lighter. Now once you're happy with that, let's go and turn off our black and white global and add in a color balance. Clip that as well. Now in the midtones, I'm going to add a bit of cyan and blue. Go over to highlights. Take a look at what the snow in the plate is looking like, and we have to match our snow from the image to that. Now there are a few sections which still need cloning and refining, and since I've already shown you guys the technique, I'll pause the video and work that out. So this is where we are. The color balance was added on top to sync it better, and the reason for keeping 2 of these layers is though that I can show you the exact change that I did, like instead of adjusting in the older layer. Now let me open that and show you these settings. As you can see, it's just adjustments in the midtones between cyan and blue. And then there is a stamp layer on top which I use to clone out certain sections. So there we go, we have the left side of the mountain working for us. Now in the next video, I'm going to go over some examples of the things we talked about in this video, like the group folder blending modes and the refine edge tool.